Good morning, everyone. Today's video is going to be about expats and expat wannabes. Are you ready to live abroad? So a quick update on the currencies. We'll start with the Canadian dollar. And remember, the Canadian dollar threshold, I feel, is at 40. That's the time you want to be sending your money. So save in your host country and then send anytime it's above 40. Today's rate is 41.5 for the weekend, okay? I'm gonna try and do this only on the weekends, guys, because it freezes the rate while the currency markets are closed for a few days, right? So the US dollar is sitting at 53, and I feel that your threshold is 50, but I'm going to reevaluate that. I want to go a little further back in time and see what the threshold is that you should be looking at. Now, leave a comment below if you feel that the threshold should be based on only 1 year or 10-year averages, okay? Australian is sitting at 37.4, and your threshold is 37, so pound that money to the Philippines. And the euro is sitting at 55.8. Sorry guys, you're still saving in your host country and you're not sending any money. So hopefully you've got a buffer sitting in the Philippines, and that's what it's all about. So let's start with if you can go broke in the Philippines, and the answer is yes. I see it a lot, okay? You have to be smart when you make this move, okay? And I'm not just talking the Philippines, I'm talking everywhere, right? If you want to be an expat because you're living right on the edge in your home country and you need to find another country. Now, for me, the Philippines, lots of English, a friendly government from the standpoint of, you know, the duration that you can stay before exiting. They have visa programs that you can utilize to stay longer. And I don't think, I have not checked, guys, this is pre-COVID. I don't think this has changed. And I know that they gave a lot of leeway on the expats as far as their monthly fees for staying in country, okay? And it's also a tracking method to make sure that you are or aren't in the country. It's only been maybe the last 5 years that my passport has been scanned when I come into the country. Most of the time it was just a picture that they were taking of the thing, so that meant that they were not tracking, okay? And so you hear of the term overstay in the Philippines, and that's going to be a lot tougher to do unless you're preparing to go underground, okay? Which means you better be squeaky clean, because you do not want to experience a Philippine jail, because court cases can take a long time to get before the judge in the first place, okay? So where do we go from here? Well, in my opinion, first you have to find out where you want to be for ground zero. Now, in my opinion, because I've run into this more than a few times, trying to go full immersion is almost impossible for a Westerner. And I mean almost impossible. It is not easy. Even though there's a lot of English spoken in the Philippines and you can easily get yourself around, you're going to run in trouble with the locals, in that they will switch back to their language very quickly. My wife does all the time, and then I'm just there. Okay? And of course, when people come over to talk to me, they know I only speak a little bit of it, not enough to even carry on a conversation, but enough to at least follow it a little bit. You have to also recognize there are multiple languages in the Philippines. Tagalog may be the formal language, but we have run into, even with our carpenters, they don't all speak fluent Tagalog. So you've got two ways that you're going to be entering an expat situation. One, You're living on the threshold of bare minimum surviving in your host country. And those who have resources, in other words, a house to sell or a condo or even a car, you know, a good valued car where you could, you know, let's use Canadian or US dollars, that might put $20,000 in your pocket, okay? Now trust me, you will chew half of that away. Boom, just like that. Just by moving there, you will chew that away. Too often I see when people move there, they start doing the party thing. Now, sometimes that's a bar, sometimes maybe that's going out to eat 5 or 6 times a week. It's a multitude of different things, all in the effort to start finding some friends there, finding other expats, okay? And in that process, you're gonna chew up a lot of money. Now, my suggestion is, because this is where my dear friend Michael got to, we kept saying to him, dude, you can still socialize. Just come with us. You don't have to buy anything. Now, your friends will understand, if they're friends, okay? And go to coffee shops and stuff, but have your dinners at home, okay? Or if you're gonna meet up with people, just say you've already eaten and have a cup of coffee, a tea, you know, don't buy those expensive drinks and stuff. Now, as a little sideline, I'm going to tell you this. You can bury yourself in the Philippines because there are things there that cost you more than your host country. And I'll use Wendy's Little Frosty. In Canada, the Frosty is about this big, okay? 99 cents, so $1, 40 pesos. In the Philippines, that's about half the amount, because they have this habit of when they pour it in, they swirl it so that there's a hole in the middle, okay? This is all part of their training there. And so you will often find your sundaes and your frosties and such to have a lot less in it. It's not what we expect in a Western country, and it's not what we get in a Western country, okay? Now, again, what I'm saying is you can easily start paying more for stuff there. So you have to start being smart about this, okay? So if you've got resources and you've already made multiple trips to the area, you want to start getting on some of these online vloggers and start feeling out what the rents are like, what the power is pretty much the same everywhere. If you're going to run your aircon, that's how they say it, AC, aircon, cooling, through your night so that you can get some relief from the heat, you can count on another $50 Canadian, $40 US roughly, somewhere in that neighborhood for your aircon, okay? And the other thing is, are you the type of person that does like to go out for coffee and will have one cup of coffee and sit there for multiple hours? I'm that kind of person. I don't like staying in my house all day long. No, not me. So decide what kind of person you are, because I see expats one of two ways, especially in the condo environment there. They open their door and it stays open and they're inviting and they sit outside and they enjoy. So in our case, if you look back at some of our videos, and I'll link some at the end, our rent there is about $125 a month. Okay, now currently we're building, but that's what our rent is, because we're still holding on to that unit and we rent it out now. So, as a furnished unit. So what you need to do is find out where your balance and things are, okay? The kicker here is all in your currency rates. And for me, as I mentioned in the beginning, there's thresholds, okay? So again, if you've got that buffer of $20,000 or more dollars, And you're going to burn through a fair amount of that when you get there. So I'm talking that this is $20,000 that you're going to be able to hold in your hand when you go there, okay? On a good currency exchange, period. But ideally, you leave it in your host country, where in the US, it seems like Western Union is probably the big one, and there's a couple of apps out there that are good. But in Canada, the remittance centers are wonderful here. They're very inexpensive. Western Union here is very expensive relative to these remittance outlets. And even better is if you could network with some Filipinos and find out one that works from their home, it's even better, because we have networked and found a young lady that does that here, which is nice because, especially when we were building the house, we were able to phone her, because we made sure she had WhatsApp or whatever she's using to talk back and forth, and we had the same software. So we were able to phone her. We would say that we're sending money, what's the rate, and get ready for the transfer. And so you can do your bank-to-bank transfer, boom, the money shows up. Very inexpensive, very inexpensive. And so, as you might have heard, when we first got back, the currency rates were really good, and we sent almost 3 years worth of money. Now that allows us to also save for the next 3 years for when the currency rates are really good. And that's what you have to do with this bundle of money that you've got. That's what you need to do. Now, the other thing is that $20,000, I'm just using a round number, 20,000. That is also your hospitalization, okay? So many of us live in social countries where the hospital system is free, and okay, you might have to add medications afterwards and such, but at least if you break a leg, in, out, thank you, that's the way it is, okay? And I see a lot of you know, Belgium, Canadian, John's my buddy, Italian, etc., that go to the Philippines and get themselves in trouble with the hospital because something as simple as break a finger, whatever it might be. Now, the upside, I'm getting a little digressed here. The upside is you can walk into a pharmacy and get almost anything without going to see a doctor. So doing some research on various antibiotics, what are the good mild ones for a mild infection, etc., and learning your pharma and your non-pharma ways, okay? You will find in the Philippines that the Filipino people are very quick to cite moringa and all of these different types of plants that they've got there that are good for your health, good for diabetes, etc., etc. But as soon as they get sick, boom, off to the doctor they go. So be aware of that. I will share an example here of a family member, a couple of cousins out type thing, where the father got sick. The net result is it was enough that when the family member who was supplying the money, that was an OFW, in other words, an overseas foreign worker, as soon as they arrived back, they gave everybody a hug and had to go right back to work again because that's how expensive that bill was, okay? So, and there are instances there where the local Philippine people know that they can't go to the hospital and they will just have to power through it, okay? So the average mean age of death there is 72 years old. It's quite low. Let's get back to if you're going to be an expat wannabe, or you're already an expat, and when you left your host country, you had no house, no car, no nothing. You're living on the edge. Your company retired you out, and you're realizing that you've had to downgrade your condo. You can't go anywhere, or it's very limited. And you're looking ahead in your life and you're saying to yourself, this is crazy. I can't live for the next 10, 20, 30 years this way, okay? If your gene pool puts you into your 90s, could be 30 years. So here's my way of thinking. You need to get on YouTube and you need to start finding out where those expat areas are. Now I'm going to use two examples because we lived in Luzon in the Angeles area, also known as Clark. US people will know that from the ex-military base that was there. And of course a lot of expats. Now we got to know a lot of friends there because we needed to be close to the embassy for Lynn to be able to come to Canada. And of course we got locked in there because we made friends there. But now we're going to build a house, and so I started listening to a lot of the channels. Where are we going to live? Because I felt that we were either going to live near Subic or something went beep on my camera. Ignore that. It's still running. So San Remijo has a lot of expats there. And I mean a lot. There's a public beach there where you can go there any day of the week and run into an expat and start making contact with people. Because the number one way that we found in Cebu City, Luzon, wherever we've been, is go to the malls, go to a McDonald's, go to a Krispy Kreme, somewhere along those lines, and you will find expats sitting there having a cup of coffee. San Remijo isn't that community, but it has a lot of expats. And Dumaguete is another one. Bohol is another. I don't know too much about Bohol other than that it is a destination point for a lot of tourism. Dumaguete has a lot of expats there. I mean a lot. And I don't mean just the city, I mean getting out of it, okay? But what I've noticed on the videos is a number of those people that are getting up there in age that need medical care, need regular types of things done, they don't have the facilities there. And that's why we picked San Remijo. I've heard of Bohol, the same thing. They're always having to work out to get on a ferry, to go across to the island of Cebu, get on a bus and go to a hospital in Cebu. And they have 2 Western level hospitals there. Oh, the sun went down. Went behind a big cloud there for a second. So Dumaguete, Bohol, lovely islands. Land is cheaper there, okay? Labor rates are not. They're pretty much the same everywhere. It's just a matter of finding a good crew if you decide to build. So that's my suggestion. Where are you at with your hospitalization? How much do you need to deal with things? If you think that you have, say, pain issues and that you are going to fly to the Philippines with a prescription that you have from your doctor and get morphine, good luck. That's all I'm going to say about that. You have to be careful about some of this stuff, and you have to learn about the Balikbayan process, where you can send stuff from your host country, okay? Especially when I'm talking prescriptions. As far as supplements and such, you can get a lot of that stuff. Lazada is a good source for that. But get on the YouTubes and start understanding what it's like to live in another country, and start tracking your currency rate. It is important, very important. You don't want to have a situation like Lynn and I have run into more than a few times. And this is why we push money ahead versus what we used to do in the beginning. 40 is our threshold, but we saw 36. And even this last year, we saw 36, okay? The Philippine peso rose nicely. So, you know, when you think that you're going to get 3,600 pesos and you're going to leave 400 pesos on the table, and you think that your vegetable costs from the market is going to be about, you know, $600 to $700 a week for your vegetables, you just left a lot of money on the table, okay? So this is why I say you have to plan. So those who are going to come there that have almost no resources but have to make a move and know that the Philippines has lots of expats there, that the language is accessible to most of us. You got 7,000 islands, which means the minimum they have 7,000 beaches. I will add this: if you like a little bit more arid area, less rain, but it will be scorching hot in the summer months, Yes, they do have a summer. June 21st is still longest day of the year. That Angeles Clark is it. Okay, so that's a teaser. Now, in the future, I'm going to do these on the weekend, and I will be more focused each week on a specific type of thing. But I will be driving home the currencies each week, and I will be driving home how to enter and live in an expat country.